Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and you are here to hopefully enjoy episode 2 of Soft Focus, sort of short form conversation based videos where I invite my friends and other people in the Blu-ray community to just discuss a film that we've seen recently or that we want to sort of recommend to people. I'm sure a lot of you watching will recognize this face. This is my good friend Elliot Coen.
Hello.
Hello. And let's just jump straight into it. Guests go first. So, Elliot, would you like to talk about the film that you've brought to today's show?
Yeah, of course. So the film in question is called The Frightened Woman, or the title is Femina Ridens in Italian, or sometimes known as The Laughing Woman as well.
So I have the Mondo Macabro release, and it's called The Laughing Woman on this one. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah. The director is, and I've got to try and pronounce this properly, Piero Shivazappa, who was someone I'm not familiar with before this film. But I'm now eagerly wanting to see other stuff that the director's done. Describing the film, you might agree with me, is a bit difficult, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's basically centered on these two people. This guy he's like a kind of wealthy guy who ends up trapping this woman, and she kind of submits to him, and she goes along with these games that he wants to play, sex games, all about power, and things like that. And then over the course of the film, we start to see shifts in this dynamic, and that's kind of all I'll say about where the film goes. When I first put this in the player, I thought I was just going to get like a typical middle of the road Italian genre film. I thought it was a giallo, to be honest, which it isn't really at all.
Did you think it would be a bit more exploitative than it turned out to be?
I
based
did, yeah.
on the setup, like I was expecting it to go into different directions.
Yeah, I almost thought it was mainly going to be an erotic film, which, I mean, it isn't really in many respects at all compared to other stuff I've seen. So, yeah. What did you think of it though? Because I know that I spurred you on to watch this.
You did,
yeah. Because I was going to do this.
Yeah, so I had this on the shelf from a couple of years ago. It was released in this Mondo Macabro one from the States was released in 2022. So it's probably coming up to about 2 years old now. So obviously I was intrigued to watch it because I bought it, but things get left on the shelf sometimes for a while. And then when I saw that in your video that you put out covering this, I was like, oh, I have that, but I don't have that Shameless edition. I've got the Mondo Macabro edition, but this is from a 4K transfer from the film negative, so I'm assuming that the Shameless one is going to be of the same quality. But I love this film. This is exactly my cup of tea in terms of like taking like genre trappings and also subverting them, and it's like gorgeous to look at. Like it's got really cool like set design. It's like pop arty, like very of the time period in the 60s and stuff like that. And the performances are really good. Like I've only ever seen Dagmar Lassander in one other thing, and that was an Emmanuel film. So she's fantastic in this. She's really good. And just yeah, I was very impressed with where the film goes. As you said, you don't want to spoil it because obviously there's the dynamics and things change and morph and stuff, but like where the film ultimately leads you is like really cool. I think it's I didn't expect it like to go where it eventually leads up to. But yeah, it was a really great discovery. It's going to go on my list for like probably towards the end of the year. Is like one of my favorite discoveries of the year because I was that impressed with it. So
yeah, because I mean, it's essentially a film with just two characters in. There are a few other people in the film, but it's really just about these two characters battling for power in a way. The actor in it is I didn't know who was in this. It's Philippe Leroy, who's actually a famous French actor who worked with Jean-Luc Godard. He works with Jacques Becker. So it's kind of weird to see him in this kind of film. But obviously in the 60s and 70s, a lot of actors from other parts of Europe and from America came to Italy to basically make a bit more money, star in a few more things, and we got all of these really weird films from the time. I say weird, but weird and actually really good.
Yeah, speaking more on like the themes of the film, there's like there's so much to do with like gender roles as well, and yeah, there's a particular striking image which we probably can't talk about without getting the YouTube video flagged, but it's like you probably know what I'm talking about. I could probably leave the image on screen
Well,
when I
it's
edit
actually
after the fact.
if it's
Is
the
that
image I'm
there?
thinking of, it's sort of vaguely done on the cover art. Can you
Yeah,
tell?
basically that, yes. But that was
Yeah.
that so I don't know if what the special features are like on that Shameless edition, but on here it goes into like that is based on a real artist's sculpture that it was actually somewhere in Europe. I can't remember where exactly, but they sort of didn't get permission as such to recreate it, but they basically left a little bit in the credits at the end of the film to say we recreated this image from this person's artwork, but you know, sort of like as a little thank you, but like we didn't get permission, but we're just gonna say give her credit anyway, sort of thing. So like very evocative imagery in the film as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, on this actual disc, so I don't know what the special features are like on that one. There's an interview with Dagmar Lassander, so she's the actress. And it actually says on the back world exclusive interview, so I guess they made this.
Yeah, it's not on this disc. Yeah.
And then there's an interview with the director, which I watched, but that doesn't say world exclusive. So maybe is that on your disc?
It is on this disc, yeah. But this, any commentaries on yours?
No commentary. So it's literally just those two interviews. That's all you get on here. And I wanted more, so I might have to get that disc.
This disc comes with a Kat Ellinger commentary.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's definitely a reason to get it.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to the whole lot of that. I've been listening to it in the car, so I've listened to about 50 minutes of that commentary, and it's really insightful. So it's like if you're into the film and you feel like double dipping in the future or something like that, it's what it might be worth getting for that commentary. It's pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, carry on.
I was just going to say, so before we move on to your film, in terms of films that it reminded me of, I don't know about you, it reminds me of a lot of different films and filmmakers. Dare I use the word Lynchian in some respects, particularly in that that there's a weird sort of dance sequence that isn't really related to the plot, that just comes out of nowhere, very much like a David Lynch kind of thing.
That literally came to mind because as soon as I watched the film, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And I just immediately went onto Letterboxd to see what other people thought of the film and stuff. And there were so many other people basically in like the first few lines of their reviews was commenting on a certain dance sequence and how like it was just pure cinema and just like one of the best things they'd ever seen. And it is extremely like well made, like cinematic moment where you're just like completely glued to the screen and you're just like, cinema is amazing, and just that's just like one of those moments where you're just like completely transfixed by the imagery and stuff. But I agree where it just comes out of nowhere and you're like, this is just surreal and what's going on here, but yeah, amazing at the same time.
And in some other respects it reminds me of the Duke of Burgundy. You've seen the Duke of Burgundy, haven't you? So it reminds me of that a bit. Reminds me a bit of Phantom Thread in terms of the power dynamic between two people and one of them gaining power of the other and it's shifting constantly. So yeah, very interesting film that I could relate to a lot of other films.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if PTA had actually seen this film, if he had any thoughts on that. But yeah, because I can definitely see Phantom Thread, links there in terms of its like theming and stuff. But yeah, it's a great pick. Thank you for bring it to my attention. Even though I already owned the disc, I just hadn't bothered to actually stick it in the player, and I'm so glad I did because it's one of the best things I've seen for a while. So yeah, that was awesome. Great pick.
Thank you.
So my pick is a bit more of a maybe more well-known popular thing, but I wanted to talk about it because I haven't really discussed it on my channel at all, and it's just this sort of video conversation thing is just like a perfect sort of opportunity to bring it up. And I'm talking about Martin Scorsese's utterly incredible After Hours from 1985. Stars Griffin Dunn as a character called Paul Hackett, and he's like an office worker who, like, after a chance encounter with a woman in a cafe, played by Patricia Arquette, like embarks on a wild night of misfortune. And I think the film it borrows a lot from different sort of genres. Like, did you notice, like, so I had seen this film before this came out, but it was like DVD days, and to be honest, I couldn't really remember much of the film apart from some of the characters that were in it, some of the actors and things like that. But on this watch, and in fact, I watched this before Christmas, and it was on my mind quite a lot over the Christmas period and into the new year. And then I was like, you know what? I'm feeling like I want to watch something familiar tonight when I watched it like last week. And I was like, I'm going to watch After Hours again, even though I just watched it recently. And I very rarely do that, like watch films very quick in succession to when I last watched it, because there's so many new things to watch and things like that. But anyway, but this time when I watched it, there's a lot of like film noir elements in it, and almost like screwball comedy, but not like in your face sort of comedic moments. It's like more darker, subtly, but still screwball comedy, and at least how I felt about the film myself. I don't know what your thoughts on it. You've covered it on your channel. I know you said it was one of the best discs of last year, but like where do you rank it in like Scorsese's filmography? Like, because for me, let me just say my piece first. After watching this like twice in really quick succession, this is probably my second favorite Scorsese film ever, after Taxi Driver. Like, I really think this is like one of his unsung masterpieces, and it's really difficult for me to say this because even though I think it's one of the best films he's ever made, there's parts of it where I'm like, if you didn't know Scorsese had directed this, would you know it was a Scorsese film? Do you get that vibe from it? But even though I think it's an utterly incredibly well-made film, I don't think it has his fingerprints over it of other films that we know from him. But that's not to say that it's any lesser of an amazing piece of work. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, because when you think of Scorsese and you actually sit down and look at his filmography, he's made so many films across like a wide variety of topics and eras and characters. A lot of people know him for his, gangster movies like Goodfellas, or The Departed, or, Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, those kind of like crime films. People don't know him for films like After Hours, or, Age of Innocence, and things like that. And I think in those films, you kind of see less of his stamp on them. Although I think if you know his own cinema inspirations and the films that he loves, you can kind of see that a bit more. I definitely did see like the noir stuff, like you were saying, and the kind of screwball comedy nature of it. The Criterion disc was actually the first time I watched it, because I was stubbornly waiting for a good presentation of it. So when it came around, I was overjoyed at it. But actually, I think when I watched it, it made me think of a lot of films that have come after the film that have been inspired from it, rather than looking backwards. So, I saw, obviously people have compared it to Uncut Gems and Good Time from the Safdie brothers, in the kind of level of anxiety that it has. Also reminds me a lot of Jonathan Demme's movie Something Wild. I don't know if you've seen that, but
I haven't seen that one, no.
That's about a guy who kind of gets dragged on a kind of journey reluctantly. And he's like a normal guy, but it's a kind of dangerous journey into the kind of crazy world. And then beyond that, like even like some of the Coen brothers movies, like, it might sound weird, Inside Llewyn Davis has a kind of feeling of this, where it's like a guy going on a journey, and it's sort of circular, and so that film came to mind as well. But I agree with you, a great film, and one that I'm finally glad I got to watch.
Yeah, I think despite like all the performances, like let's mention the cast. It's got like, we've got Griffin Dunn in it, who's like the main character, and then we've also got like small supporting roles from various very familiar faces like Catherine O'Hara, John Hurd. I mentioned Rosanna Arquette earlier, Linda Fiorentino, Cheech and Chong make an appearance in the film, and there's a host of other recognizable faces, and each of their individual roles really just like creates this like kinetic energy of like just chaos constantly going on, and it's just so well like edited and put together. What else was I going to say? Oh, I think one of my the secret ingredient of this film to me is the cinematography, right? Because Michael Ballhaus, is it Ballhaus or Ballhaus? I never know how to pronounce his name. I know he's a German guy, but
I think if you're pronouncing it in English, you'd say Ballhaus, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
that's how I say it.
Yeah. Who worked with Scorsese on many things, and other directors. We starting out his career with Werner Fassbinder and things like that. But his style of like just camera angles and just framing and just the way he'd move the camera and stuff in certain sequences just like gives the film an off-kilter chaotic feel to it, which like complements exactly what's going on in the story as well. And I just think that was like it's just so well photographed, and obviously on this 4K disc it's just so good to look at. I mean, I can't remember what the DVD looked at, but it's obviously this is going to be leaps and bounds above what that old presentation was. But yeah, it's a stunning looking film, and just love the whole New York vibe of it. Like just in the early hours of the morning, obviously the film's called After Hours, but it's just like a New York that you don't really see in films, because obviously New York is obviously the city that never sleeps, but it's always bustling with energy. Even though this film is so chaotic, there's rarely ever a bunch of people all together on the screen at once, except when they're in that like club and you've got Scorsese bits shining the light on all the crowds. It's like his little cameo in the film.
Yeah.
It's usually only like a couple of people in a scene in a room in New York City sort of thing, and you get some scenes on the streets, but it's usually like empty. There's no one there, there's no traffic, and you're like, it's just such an interesting way to shoot New York by still making it feel like New York, with it being so energetic and chaotic and just, you know, crazy, but without having all the distractions of like loads of people on the set for filming certain sequences and stuff. So I thought that was a really well done to like capture that energy, but without having super amounts of energy on screen. So yeah. Speaking on the special features, there is a conversation between Scorsese and Fran Lebowitz, the writer Fran Lebowitz, which is really good. The audio commentary is fantastic with Scorsese and a bunch of people who are involved in the making of the film. There's a making of documentary, which is really good. And then a awesome sort of like feature on the costume and set design. And the set design, I think, is particularly awesome in this film. Yeah. I love it. I wish I'd given it a bit more time, because I put it on my honorable mentions for last year, and I really think it should have made the top 10 cut, but never mind. It's too late now. This time has passed. But yeah, I love the design on this. Like Criterion usually have quite striking imagery on their discs, but I love the art on this. I should really know who did this. Someone's probably going to put in the comments on this, because I think it's quite a famous, as someone who's done some Criterion covers before.
Right.
But yeah, it's very 80s, with the pink, neon pink and stuff like that and stuff. And it's just, and the collage you can't probably see on the camera right now, but there's like a collage of all the characters in the background in the green sort of thing. And it's just so good. And then the striking pink, I love a good pink spine. So yeah.
That sounds weird out of context.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, maybe I'll edit that out. Maybe I won't. Keep it in.
Keep it in. It's funny.
So yeah, I think that's all I want to say about After Hours. I mean, most people probably watching this have picked it up or seen it, as it made a lot of end of year lists for people, rightfully so. But I haven't actually spoken my 2 cents on why I think the film's amazing and what I thought of this disc. So I thought I'd bring it up in conversation with you today. Any closing remarks before we call it there?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, short and sweet. That's what we're going to do for this show. This is even better than last week's. So last week's was 23 minutes. This one is literally approaching 20 minutes as we speak. So we're just breaking records here. So yeah, awesome.
Does that mean I'm better than Chris?
I'll let you and Chris fight over
Okay.
that one. That's fine. So thank you for joining me today, Elliot. I'll leave links to everything towards your channel in the description below. And yeah, I'll definitely have you on the channel in various different iterations of podcasts and this show and things in the future. Thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this, let us know what you thought of the picks that we talked about today. What you've been watching recently as well. I always like to know, what sort of things, recommendations. So until next time, everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye.